Hey everybody, I'm Chris Turk with Up North Air Gunner, and I'm here with
Chad Simon from Lethal Air.
So we just had the last couple days of probably some of the best big bore air gun shooting I think I've ever had, man.
Yeah, it was a blast, man. I really enjoyed myself.
It was awesome. So yeah, we're out here at the Marksmanship Training Center in Lake City, Michigan. And I brought Chad out here to take some shots out at 1,000 yards. The way we set up this shot was we each took 10 shots, just so that way we're not just slinging lead until we just randomly hit it. And so just to prove the absolute pure power that these air guns can provide straight from the manufacturer, we're using a bone stock AirForce Texan 50 cal. And so for today's long range shooting demonstration, we're gonna be using the Mr. Hollow Point 545 grain Spitzer slugs. These things have a super high BC, not shooting as high of a velocity as I'd like with these. I've got these around 750, maybe 775 feet per second. Ideally, I'd like to be shooting something into the 900s, but so for today's test, shooting a bone stock AirForce Texan 50 cal, let's see what they'll do. So what was really hard about this shot was the LSS shroud that's actually around the end of the barrel of the AirForce Texan. We had so much elevation in the scope rail, we really just, it was almost obscuring the entire target. So Chad missed, and this is no bull, total true. Caleb can vouch for us.
Yep, it happened.
Very first shot, missed it by that much.
I was so close, man. I was like, oh, and then I just chased that bullet the rest of the evening.
Yeah, yeah.
Couldn't get it.
Oh, dude! Man.
Oh man! Oh man! Oh, I mean, dude, I mean the jugs here and dirt flew up everywhere. Maybe I didn't see it move, but possibly nicked it.
So we drove down and checked for impact. Did not hit it. So when we're looking at the ballistics calculator, you will see in just both spin drift and Coriolis effect, this is out even without any wind. That bullet was literally drifting from left to right by 93 inches. So who knows, maybe it dropped in over the top of it, or it basically curved around it from left to right. But from our angle of view with the spotting scope directly behind me, it just looked like there was no way we didn't hit this thing. So next up was Caleb Simon. Oh! Dude, you might have, that was right below. So we were getting impacts all around the target. It really wasn't holding any kind of real grouping. So after Caleb's few shots, we decided to go down to the shorter range and do some other big bore ammo testing. But I'll tell you what, the funnest that we had was out here just blowing some stuff up on the short range.
Yes it was. That Lehigh defense rounds, man, they were pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we're doing some ammo testing for Lehigh defense. They're the controlled fracturing, so you've probably seen that on my channel. Basically that slug hits, 4 petals deploy, you get a penetrator slug zipping through that deer.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
excited
awesome.
to use one during deer season.
Yeah.
Those awesome results we got.
Yeah.
We set out a gallon jug at 50 yards and shot it with these new rounds, and it just was like a huge explosion everywhere. This shot liquid probably 15, maybe even 20 feet away from the target. Look where the petals sliced up through there.
That's sweet. Imagine what that does to a deer.
Man, that's gonna be wicked. What a wicked round.
That's awesome, man.
You ain't picking petals out of your teeth. And then we set up a clay block and shot that, and it was just like a huge wound channel, which you'll see, I'm sure, in the video coming up. But amazing.
Whoa! Look at that. That is amazing.
So look, you can actually see there's a petal right there.
Yep.
That is nuts. Yeah.
I was not expecting that whatsoever.
Yeah. And I actually, in the recent podcast interview I did, this copper stuff that we're playing with and we're testing, I mean, it's super expensive. So the way I look at it is like, it's like an opening day of deer season situation. I mean, you're not going to be burning through stuff like that, out here at the range. But
no,
lead is still, king.
Yeah, lead is still king. Yeah, and that's the other thing. You're talking about the guns getting more powerful. We're seeing our ammo evolve as well. So they go hand in hand. So the more you see out of the ammo and the more you see out of the guns, the more you're going to be able to do. The more longer ranges, the more shots you can take that you would not have took 5 years ago, because of the products and the development that we have now. So
yeah, it was kind of funny. Like he and I were talking, I think it was like 2 years ago, about we wish there was a slug that acted like a broadhead.
Yeah,
remember that? Yep. I was just like, man, Chad, we got to come out. And we saw what Lehigh was doing with those maximum expansion rounds. They're expanding to like 1 3/4 inches. That right there is 1 3/4 inches of expansion.
It's 750 feet per second and above. They're expanding out great. So.
Yeah. And then this controlled fracturing thing, that's like a grenade, man.
Yeah, it is. It's sending those little pedals all through that clay block and stuff. We were finding clay pedals that were just driving in there like this far in a solid block of clay.
Yeah.
It was just like little broadhead tips. Just.
So how many different big bores did we shoot over the last 2 days, man? I lost count.
Probably 7 to 10, I guess.
That's crazy, man. This was like a big bore air gun, like Disneyland for me out here, man.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Oh, dude. That is nuts. Dude, look at that.
I know, it's perfect.
That is nuts. Damn, she's sexy.
Yeah, she's good looking.
Saw me flinch, didn't you? Oh, I'm so scared. All right, here we go. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I own more big bores than I do small bores, to be honest. Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Big bores are my thing.
Awesome. So Chad, you and I have been buddies for the last couple years, and this dude probably has shot more deer and shot more critters than probably all of us combined. I'm here to interview Chad today, ask him some questions about hunting. So Chad, you've been doing this for quite some time, and we've got access to some pretty high power stuff. The AirForce Texans at 800 foot-pounds of energy. You're shooting some modified stuff that's even up into like the 1,200 foot-pounds of energy level.
943 feet per second for 1,210 foot-pounds of energy. Woo, man.
Right. But you started back when stuff was like 250 foot-pounds and less. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you got started with some of that lower powered stuff.
Right. Well, a buddy of mine had gotten a Dragon Claw like 8 years ago when it pretty much first came out, and he was telling me, hey, I'm gonna go deer hunting with Airgun this year. And I just was like, what are you talking about? So he brought up his 50 cal, and we went deer hunting that year, and he brought it along, killed about 3 or 4 deer that season, and I thought that's pretty cool. So that following summer, I got my son Caleb a little 25 cal Sumatra, and we messed around with that. And then that next deer season, I was like, well, I'm gonna get me a Sam Yang 45. So I went out with that guy, and we started airgun hunting together, and it's just evolved from there. And over the past 8 to 10 years, airguns have went from like 200 foot-pounds to 1,000 or so. So been pretty neat to see the development of the way they've been going.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I found, you and I have talked about this a lot, is that like once you start getting up over like 300 to 500 foot-pounds of energy, your shot choices start really opening up, both yardage, like how far away you can shoot a deer, shot angles, with that 200 foot-pounds of energy, and even, or let's say 300 foot-pounds of energy and lower, I've found that really those broadside shots are really the only ones you should probably be taking. But I mean, you've shot more deer in that range.
I totally agree. I think anything 300 and subpar below that, you should be a nice side complete side shot, avoid the shoulder, try to punch the ribs, and just get all vitals, and that they end up being the best results overall.
Yeah, you know, both of us, we're, you know, on social media, we're always talking with guys that say that, you know, they're always going to do a headshot, and you know, if you do that, that's totally fine. And one of the things that I've learned with this is not to talk about, you know, ethics, because ethics is really your choice, like what you're going to do while you're hunting, and that's between you and the deer, basically. But one of the things I talk about is those high percentile shots. Like statistically, you're going to get a better kill going for that heart-lung shot than you are the neck or the head. So, I mean, have you found something similar?
Yeah, I agree. There's much more room for error if you make a mistake and you're a little off, or you've bumped your scope and didn't realize it, and you're off 2 or 3 inches. You still, as long as you put a good quality shot in this area from, you know, mid back to the front shoulder, you should find that deer.
Yeah.
So
you know, right now what's kind of crazy about big bores, I mean, we have everything from like the 35 FX Impact that just came out. It's 135 to 150 foot-pounds of energy, all the way up to some of the modded stuff that you're doing over 1,000. So here in Michigan, you only have to have a 35 caliber or higher big bore air gun. When we get online and you see, like, you know, Airgun Depot's got this like chart of like this size animal with this FPE, and I think that's a good baseline. But as we hunt more, we learn that maybe that's a good baseline of like how much energy to use, but you get all these different factors that come into that equation. But I wanted to do this video today with Chad to talk about, like, if you were shooting some of those, you know, 250 foot-pounds of energy down to, let's say, 150 with that FX Impact, I mean, your shot selections are becoming really slim.
And you should keep it a close distance too. Something that's, I wouldn't go no more than 75 with your 200 plus foot-pounds, and I'd probably keep it at 50 and below if you're going to try like a 357 Impact or something similar to that.
Yeah. So if you guys are getting into it, just remember that, you know, some of that lower FPE air guns, and even like some of like the Evanex Rex 357 bone stock, that's kind of in that 150 range too.
You're right. Customizing the guns and getting up to more power. So now they're starting to get options out there that you can make it compatible with a Texan SS or the old standard Texan that was doing 500 foot-pounds. And so you can still use those guns and be ethical, but it'd be smart to bump them up to those type of powers if that type of stuff is available.
So tell us a little bit about, you guys do a lot of modification services there at Lethal Air, and yeah, tell us some about some of those kits.
I'm in partnership with Jeremy at African Air Ordnance, and he's a mad scientist when it comes to air gun valves and things like that, and just getting more power out of a stock gun. And I really enjoy working with him and seeing the stuff that he develops, and helping him with that. You know, I do some stuff over here, he does some stuff over there, and we just combine it together. Our Super Tex 50 cal is doing 1,210 foot-pounds with a 613 grain slug at 950 feet per second. It just kicks like a 12 gauge. It's like shooting a firearm. I mean, some guys are like, why would you want to do that when you're shooting air guns, you know? But it's fun to see air guns evolve to that level and just get more and more powerful. It's just like a hot-rodded car. You know, you buy your Corvette and you go out and buy a supercharger or turbo, and next thing you know, you go from a stock car that's 500 horsepower and you're doing 800 horsepower. It's no different in the gun world.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, there's a lot of modders out there. You know, there's was it Saddle Mountain? You know, they do some stuff like with the Dragon Claws, and then this guy Mark Cherry over at Cap Dragon, he started doing some stuff.
Here is the Cap Dragon, upgraded to 2 times more power than the factory Dragon Claw. So that's a 385 grain Hornet A Great Plains bullet.
So yeah, I mean, so if you've got an air gun, you know, and it's, let's say if you really like the Dragon Claw, you really like the Evanex stuff, got guys like Chad that can modify it for you and take it to that next level. Let's talk a little bit about shot placement. So we've been talking about, you know, where, you know, a lot of times guys that are coming from the firearm side of these things, I've always heard high shoulder shot, shoot them in the neck. You know, that stuff with like a 308 powder burner, I mean, that blunt force is just going to put that deer down.
Yeah.
But with air guns, how is it a little bit different?
Yeah, well, you don't have that hydrostatic shock like you do with a firearm. I mean, you're not doing 3,000 feet per second with your round, and so when the deer gets hit with a firearm round like that, it's not only the bullet hitting them, it's just like the whole impact sends like a shock wave through their body and causes more trauma, like nerve system trauma and stuff like that, to where when you're shooting an air gun in soft lead, you're just pretty much making a wound channel, kind of like an arrow. You know, it's real similar to archery, I would say.
Yeah.
So you just don't get that. The animal doesn't absorb that shock like they do with a firearm.
Yeah, my last 3 deer last year, I was trying for that high shoulder shot, you know, and I've seen guys, I've seen people put deer down right away, and for me, it's like, I found just that, you know, behind that shoulder even come back a little bit. I mean, the lungs, if you look at the anatomy of a deer, the lungs are shaped, they kind of taper towards the heart, and then they open up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have like a shot placement like this. You just can't go wrong.
And your rib bones are really, I mean, they're just like almost paper thin. Yeah. And you have a little bit of space. You can get lucky and punch between the ribs and just be straight, you know, hide and internals. So.
Yeah. So one of the things, like back on the headshot thing, I mean, one of the things, the reason I think why I won't take a headshot is I've noticed that during the rut, deer are really, you know, does are being chased.
Yeah.
Bucks are just horny.
Right.
So their head's on a swivel. They're really twitchy, and I feel like, especially during the rut, a headshot's probably a bad idea, just because they're going to be able to move so much.
Yeah, and maybe hit, you know, also like if you're in a state that allows you to hunt over, you know, feeders and stuff.
Yep.
You know, a deer gets down and is eating the corn and his head's down there for 10 seconds, you can take a nice controlled shot.
Yep.
If a deer's up and alert and looking for a doe or looking for that noise he just heard and his head is doing this, you know, that's really not a shot you should take.
Yeah. Definitely check out my crossbow steambow hunt that I did last year. That buck knew I was there. Either he smelled me, he saw me.
He knew something was up.
Yep, flicking that tail, licking his nose. And I mean, that arrow was 330 feet per second at 30 yards. So let's equate that to, let's say, a dragon claw, right? Going 650 feet per second at 60 yards. I mean, he almost completely ducked that arrow.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and in the rut they're more leery too. You know, in early season, before, you know, if hunting season been going on for a month, the deer have been hearing gunshots and been smelling human scent all through the woods. To where if it's the first week of archery season, the deer doesn't even know it's deer season yet, and you get lucky and pop one off right at the beginning of the season, and then the rest of them are like, oh, it's this time of year. You know, let's make sure we're more careful in the woods, basically.
Yeah, and I found, like, for us, we've got that late September doe hunt. Man, those deer are just so relaxed and just, they don't really know they're out. They haven't been pushed yet because of the rut.
Yeah,
you know, maybe a headshot during that time, but for us, November 15th, it becomes a shooting gallery out here. So,
yeah, exactly. That's how it goes. Is they start getting spooked and they're just more leery and skittish.
Yeah. So if there was if somebody wants to get involved in big bore air guns, I mean, what would be, you know, I mean, without picking a specific gun, you know, because like I absolutely love the AirForce Texans. I tell people, like, if you're going to get into it, I personally say just get the biggest FPE gun that you can afford.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. I would say, you know, work with your budget. If you can save for maybe a month more and get something a little more powerful, and it's not deer season yet, save a little more. Because if you're going to decide that what you're going to do is hunt with that thing, then you should do your best to get the gun adequate for what your range is, the type of style of hunting that you do. I wouldn't just cheap out and buy something cheaper just because, you know, I just don't think it's a wise decision. You
know, but I mean, the reality is, though, some people, they might just have that budget and they're like, you know what, maybe my wife won't let me spend more than $650 on a gun or something like that. But, you know, I just got the Dragon Claw the other day, and, you know, it's definitely a lower power FPE gun, but it looks sweet. I absolutely love that thing. And I was just shooting some of those, what are they called, the EPP slugs.
Right.
And, I mean, it was holding really good groups at 50 yards. You know, a gun like that, I definitely think like a 50-yard and closer gun.
Yeah, my Sam Yang, when it was in stock form, the farthest I shot a deer was 78 yards with a 200 grain flat nose. Yeah. The bullet always got stuck in the opposite hide, and I always had to really pay attention to where the deer run off. But knock on wood, I had never lost one with the Sam Yang 45. So
yeah. So I know a lot of us guys, we get pretty brand specific. I mean, I'm a big fanboy for AirForce Texans, but yeah, man. So I really appreciate you coming out here to visit me here in Michigan.
Appreciate you inviting us, man. We had a blast. Can't wait to do it again sometime.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for everything, man.
Yeah. Blast.
So I know we shook hands. We did our best to stay socially distanced over those 2 days, but Chad left me some great hand sanitizer. I think he called it Virginia Mountain Water. Works great. Got my hands completely clean and tastes pretty good too. So I'm here with Caleb Simon, son to Mr. Chad Simon, and you know, for me growing up, my dad, he worked for the Department of Natural Resources, and he really emphasized like ethical hunting, taking ethical shots. Maybe what are some of the things that your dad has taught you along the way that you could pass on to some of these other new hunters?
One thing he's always taught me is to never take a shot that you don't have. You know what I mean? Because like
if a deer is walking away, you probably don't want to take the shot, especially at your range, you know. But because the deer is always going to be alert and moving. Because another thing he always says, that the thing that a deer does every day is just try to survive and try to survive. And so once you train yourself to try to survive for however many years of that deer's life, then the deer is going to get used to, looking around, making sure everything's there. And he's always taught me to never take a bad shot from the back end where it might hit back here and have to go through a whole lot to make it to the vitals. And he's always taught me patience and how to take the right shot instead of the wrong one.
Awesome. So how old are you now?
17.
17. And when did you first start deer hunting?
When I was 6. Yeah.
So, what would you say to like moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas that are out there? Maybe they grew up hunting, and we're losing a lot of hunters.
We are.
Just not in air gunning, but just in all types of hunting. Mm-hmm. As a kid, mm-hmm. What has it done for you in your life to get you outside, and what are some of the things you've enjoyed most about it?
Well, the thing I enjoy most about hunting isn't the actual kill, it's an experience that you get with it. Because once you go hunting, because like most of the time when I go hunting, I'm going hunting with my dad over here, and so it's always a great father-son experience in the woods, because hunting doesn't always go smoothly, as I'm sure you've learned. You get lost in the woods sometimes. You have to pull yourself out of some pickles. And but he's always had me right by his side the whole way. And one thing I've always known is, if you want to get into hunting, then go do it. It's not that hard. Most of everybody has a gun laying around. We're Americans.
Yep. And
if you don't, then you can go buy one. You can go buy a bow or a crossbow or hopefully an air gun. LethalAir.net. But if you want to get into hunting, just take the leap and do it. Because it's a leap of faith. Because once you get into hunting, you'll never go out of it. You'll have free meat. You'll have gratitude that you killed it yourself. It won't have any chemicals in it. It'll be running right off of the woods. Yeah. And it's just the great combination.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming up, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
And so to wrap things up, we really never give up any kind of opportunity to do some air gun advocacy work. There was a lot of shooters on the range that day getting ready for a charity event the next day. We pulled up the big bores. We gave a lot of these shooters some opportunity to try out some big bore air guns. They absolutely loved it. I think we probably convinced a couple of them to come into the fold. Was that your first time ever shooting a big bore?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, big bore air gun. Awesome, man. What do you think?
This is definitely a new sport we got to try.
Awesome,
no
cool,
doubt
man.
about it.
So anyway, we had a great time. It was really awesome seeing some young shooters out there with their dads.
Wow.
What do you think?
A lot of recoil.
Incredible. Chad, what's the caliber on that?
82.
I shot a deer in Texas with it last year. That was pretty fun.
I got some bullets.
I bet you just blew them to pieces.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So yeah, if you've got a son, if you've got a daughter, if you've got grandkids, get an air gun, get them outside, get involved. Absolutely love this sport. Thanks everybody for joining me. This is Chris with Up North Air Gunner. Take care.